full disclosure, because we keep it real here, when they open up that elective, are you going to like camp out the night before?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically like, this is your Apple iPhone.
Pretty much.
Botox.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had to shoot something for work on a regular, like high def camera.
That's not nice.
Same right here, right? And we don't use the filter that makes you, but this sort of low def or medium def is so much more forgiving. I was like, oh God.
Yeah, it sucks. I hate high def.
Yikes.
The worst.
I was like 4K, like I'm going to now 4K over my money to anybody who will come on over here and give me the bow.
I've had like 6 different clients reach out, like, what will it take? How much money? Yeah, yeah. People are losing their minds.
Yeah.
You're so lucky that you don't have your hair color is your hair color.
It is. There's like 1 or 2 grays that have come on. One I plucked because I was like, I just
screw it.
And then I've got the the hair dye you gave me, so I'm going to probably do that.
Yeah.
By the way, I need to get you on because now it's like time for Tom's haircut.
Yeah.
And I don't even mind saying this. So he was in the shower the other day and he's like, babe, can you, I'm setting this up. Maybe I shouldn't talk about this.
It's okay.
So I was going to get in the shower. So I'd already taken my clothes off. Right. And then he was like, he had to get in because he had to go to work or something. So I'm like, oh, don't worry. You go first. And then I'll just
jump
in.
in.
And he's like, oh, can you just clean me up around my ears? And it was like, this is your first naked haircut. Yeah. But I realized, I was like, oh man, it might be now a while. So I cleaned up around the ears. You showed me how to do that, but I think we've got to get in with the comb. And I started to do that, but I need a refresher.
No worries.
Yeah.
Super easy. I will bust out and find a mannequin somewhere.
And we'll make sure that we're dressed.
Yes. And I will definitely turn my old Wendy mannequin into Wendell for the sake of Tom's haircut.
You know, it's tough right now.
It is. It is. And you can't, I mean, I love my clients. I love and trust them dearly, but like truthfully, no, I can't come do your hair. And no, I can't see you. No,
you can't do that.
Not happening. And people are like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, just today. What do you mean? Like, if you just come to the house and we'll wear masks. I'm like, no.
No, that's not
happening. Anywho, on that note, we have a full episode today of so much information.
Mm-hmm. And some like something that you're going to want to look for in your pharmacy that needs to be part of your quarantine essentials kit. And no, it's not for beauty and it's not superficial. This is something that could really save your eyes down the road.
Okay, so fresh out of surgery.
Literally, because the surgery was supposed to happen at 7:30 and then it got pushed to 9:30 and then I started at 11:30.
Thank you so much for hopping on with us.
Of course. I'm like such a timely person, so I was like stressing out. I was like, oh my God, this is taking forever.
Like talking about like anxious. So I've had this eye twitch that I get them occasionally. I feel like when I'm like tired or stressed, but I don't know. And then I talked to another girlfriend who was like, I've also been having an eye twitch. Like, what is it really from?
Yeah. So eyelid twitch is something called myokymia, which is basically like a fancy word for just thought. It's eyelid twitching. So it can be due to a lot of things. The number one cause is fatigue, stress. And think of it like a muscle that's just irritated. So just like you get a cramp in your leg, right? That sometimes can be because of overuse. But the eyelid muscle, you're not overusing. So the irritants that can be, something like, heavy exercise or something in the body is not going to be equivalent to the eyelid muscle. So the eyelid is very sensitive to things like caffeine, to things like poor sleep or decreased sleep, stress. The other thing that I think is always overlooked is dry eyes. The reason is people obviously, we were just talking about screen time. If you have dry eyes, which everyone does nowadays, just because of our, generation being the screen time generation, or the screen generation, you will make it 10 times worse by not kind of being or not having good lubrication on the eyes. So what I always recommend is kind of try to decrease stress. No one can do that. Try to decrease caffeine intake, and then just start using lubricating drops in the eye.
Oh,
Which
amazing.
ones?
Help.
What's your favorite?
So I always recommend preservative-free drops. There's really no brand that's preferable. Every brand is fine as long as it says preservative-free.
Okay.
The trick with those is that you can actually recap the vial. What they want you to do is to use 1 drop in each eye and then throw it away, but there's actually a lot left in the dropper. So you can actually recap them. And once it's open, you just put it in your refrigerator, because it's good for a week unrefrigerated. But if you're not going to use it, which you should if you're dry, then you put it in your refrigerator. And what happens over time is that you actually develop an allergy to the preservative. So that's why I always recommend preservative-free.
So it's like,
Cool.
I think my husband uses Theratears.
Yeah, that's fine if it's intermittent usage. But if you're using every day, 4 times a day, which is actually therapeutic dose, meaning you should be using something 4 times a day or more drop-wise if you want to treat dry eye.
4 times a day.
Minimum.
So,
Yeah.
where do we get those? Do they sell preservative-free ones at Dwayne Reed?
Everywhere.
Okay.
Everywhere.
Okay.
Amazon.
Just as long as it says preservative-free, the brand is fine. And if you're a contact lens wearer, you just have to be careful that it's safe to use with contacts and that it will save bucks.
So basically, you just gave us a great quarantine tip. Is like everybody should be doing this, because screen time is up so much, and I'm just wondering, like, how bad is this going to be? Like, do you think 20 years from now, we're going to look back at this time and say, oh my gosh, this was so bad for our eyes?
Yeah. So, the blue light theory became very popular, where people started to really freak out about the blue light. So really high doses of blue light have been shown to have some damaging effects to the eyes. But you have to think about what is emitted from the screen. So the amount of blue light that you get from computer screens is actually very minimal.
Okay.
So you would really have to be on the screen more than what's possible to actually get the damage. And it can happen in the form of cataracts, and also can cause some changes in the retina. But again, it has to be a very high dose for a very long time. Again, not possible with screen time. So the studies really don't corroborate that finding. What they do corroborate, though, is that it actually does affect circadian rhythm. So blue light does affect circadian rhythm, and it causes decreased and kind of poor quality sleep.
Yeah.
So what I recommend is, it's fine to do screen time. Could you use those blue light glasses? Yes, but it's kind of a waste, because like I said, it does take a lot. Yep, everyone has them. And that's okay. It's not going to hurt you. But again, I don't wear blue light glasses, so that should tell you everything, But I try to minimize as much as I can the amount of screen time before I go to bed. So the recommendation is to basically stop all screen time 30 minutes to an hour before bedtime.
Mm-hmm.
Affect your circadian rhythm.
And that's because, like, I don't know about anybody else right now, but I sit on a computer for legit 9 hours of my day right now, because I'm working from home. And then I'm checking my email on my phone, and then I'm watching TV. I mean, it's really from like one screen to the next one. And I think a lot of people are doing that. Even when I'm doing my at-home exercises, it's being streamed through either my phone or being cast to my TV. So
it's tough. So I think the issue is we live in a very different time, and I'm guilty of it too. When I say I try, it's really trying, because that, especially if that's the only time that you have for yourself, you want to be able to do something that you like. Usually that has to do with TV, Instagram, something.
Yes. 100%.
Right? So
yes. TikTok.
I'm all about TikTok these days.
Can we just discuss your TikToks?
I mean, I think I might just quit my job and just.
You're a sensation.
You're so nice.
Are you ready for reality TV? Because you are.
I want to.
You do. You know that you would be a star.
You know what's funny is I'm actually very shy.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But when I feel comfortable, like when I feel secure and I feel like I'm around people, which is odd because like TikTok is for everyone. But when it comes to me as a person, I'm actually not that way, which is funny because when people meet me, like I tend to be a little bit more quiet. Like I'll joke if I'm comfortable with you.
Yeah.
But if I'm not, I just kind of a little bit more silent. So it just brings me to life, you know?
So Ryan sent me the TikTok. Okay. First of all, I am probably the only person in the world right now who's not on TikTok. I know I need to do it. I feel like I've done them before. It's like where you set the music video. So I've done them before, but right now I was surprised to find that you can do stuff that's not musical. And I loved the Russian Botox. Was that your voice though? No.
No, everyone thought that was my voice, which I was like, kind of like, thanks.
I was like, she's so talented.
I mean.
Good morning, Olga speaking. How can I help you? Oh, hi, Mrs. Humphrey. Yes, we are no longer taking patients because of coronavirus. Yes, we have to wait. Oh, your Botox wearing off? Okay, so what I would suggest right now is don't move your face. Don't talk, don't smile, don't laugh, don't cry. Do not look surprised, and this will take you a little bit before the wrinkle come back.
And you look stunning.
I love you.
I was like, move over Kardashians. They ain't got nothing on you.
Oh my God. They do have a lot.
I mean, nothing we couldn't just, whip up real quick. Trust.
Yeah, whip it up just a little. But,
Kimmy out Nazian.
She needs a break anyway.
Yeah.
Ooh, to tell you, this quarantine has been oddly, I don't even want to say relaxing, but it has been.
Mm-hmm.
You guys feel that way?
And we've been really conscious of this. I think that there are people out there who are dealing with some of the worst, awful. I can't even imagine what it's like on the front lines. But for those of us who are fortunate enough to not, I don't want it to end. I love working from home. My husband's here. We're getting along. We're doing things we never did. We did a puzzle. I miss going out to restaurants. I'm feeling so bad for people, those small business owners who are just getting crushed, and
100%.
being very aware of that. But for the fact of just being able to take a little bit of a break and not have to go has been
refreshing.
Really refreshing. That aspect of it has been wonderful.
Yeah, it's the non-financial aspect, which I think all of us are, especially as small business owners, are terrifying. But I always try, I think for me, I'm very used to struggle and crisis. I'm an immigrant. I came here with zero, negative, nothing. So that part of it never scares me. It's almost like I feel the most comfortable in struggle, if that sounds but for me it's more of I just hope that this will never happen again. I don't think this can ever happen again, because even there will be other viral illnesses that are new that come through, but just like 9/11, we're prepared, and that preparedness is very important.
I love that you said that, because one of my girlfriends, I was on a group, a book club last night, and she said, they're talking about this second wave and how it's going to be so much worse. And I'm not a doctor. But just I think from a social aspect of it, I was like, I don't think it will be worse, because look, now we all know, we might not like it, but we know that the quarantine works. We are better prepared for it. We'll have our masks on hand. We're going to have our gloves on hand. We know that telecommuting works. So for me, from that aspect, I can't speak to the medical of it being worse with the second wave, but I'm glad that you said that. I think that people need that reassurance that, hey, we are getting through this, so that if it happens again, we'll be better prepared for it.
And I'm just going to say that I think more boys now wash their hands after they pee than ever.
God.
So
and women.
I think we're
which is shocking that they weren't before. That's insane.
Dr. Naz, you invited all the men to sit down in your office on the toilet seat. I saw that sign.
Oh, yes. You're like, please sit and wash. Yeah.
I truly believe that people are just more, their habits are better now, and they forever will be.
I want to
for
see what happens in the fall with flu season here in New York, because when you ride the subways, you hear everybody sniffling and wiping their nose. And I wonder
Yeah.
now if that will change. I hope it does. I hope it does.
I don't think anyone will ever be the same after this. And it might be, I think the severity of it will be, all of us will be very panicked right away after when things open up. And then obviously it'll relax. But I never think we'll be fully relaxed.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
No.
I just don't. I think so I'm still doing emergency cases. I'm still going to the hospital because I still take trauma calls. So I am seeing COVID patients. I mean, to that point where you said that the second wave won't be as bad. It won't be as bad if people continue to take precautions, because it's always the concern is overwhelming the health system.
Right.
And so I feel like people have finally gotten it, and our health systems, at least here in DC, Maryland, Virginia, we're hitting our peak now.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now we're being tested healthcare wise. So the second wave, it's just a matter of not all going back at the same time, not falling back into their usual ways, because otherwise, if the health system gets overrun, that's when we're in trouble. But I have a good feeling that won't happen.
I get surprised though. I heard Boston University canceled their fall semester already. And I'm wondering if that seems, September,
Yeah.
if that seems like, wow, I don't know. Maybe I thought that in June we would start to see things kind of up and running again here in the city, but maybe I'm way off.
I think the issue is when they're suspecting that COVID will end is when flu season begins.
Mm.
So we don't know how those two viruses interact, A, and B, just imagine someone who develops the flu. They don't know if they have COVID or if they have the flu.
Right.
The precautions would then, unless we have a vaccine, would then be to quarantine, right? Unless we have available tests. But that's it. I think once we have kind of readily available tests, everything will be different. Because if that's the issue is the combination of COVID plus the flu is going to be very, very dangerous. But at the same time, we do have flu tests that are very accurate. We have flu vaccines that work very well. I think now more than ever, everyone has to get their flu vaccines, just because, God forbid, if you develop something, then at least you're protected on one.
I never even thought about that. So you can have the flu and COVID at the same time?
Yeah.
That would be very
dangerous.
Very severe. It would be a very severe illness. Yes.
On that note, I want to get back on my little self-appointed soapbox though. Get the flu shot. I get so annoyed with people who don't do that, because you know what? It's not just about you. It's about everybody else that you're going to like infect and make worse.
Correct. So I was an intern at Washington Hospital Center when H1N1 hit, before they had a vaccine. So it was essentially, and kind of on a pandemic level, although it wasn't truly a pandemic, but I saw patients dying. The difference was that H1N1 killed everyone. Obviously people with underlying illnesses, yes, but you hear a lot more stories of healthy people dying from H1N1 or before the vaccine. And so I always get my flu shot. I think now anyone would get a corona vaccine, correct? Would say no to a corona vaccine. And so you have to think of H1N1 as the same, right? Once you see it and you see how it can be so deadly, it's a no-brainer. You're basically saying, sure, I'll take this risk. But I think now more than ever, people are going to take that seriously too.
I think too, you hit on a point that's also so mind-blowing that, when people see things, it becomes a lot more, something to react to. And it's interesting. I think that if we could, because this is a lot of where people are dying is in hospitals, and because of HIPAA laws, you can't show that, right? So we're not really seeing a lot of what's going on in the emergency rooms. We're getting pieces of it here and there, but I wonder if that's also sort of been a hindrance to everybody, it's one thing when it's a number on a screen or a little red dot where you're following it on a map, and it's very different when you're seeing the pictures. 9/11, we saw a lot of photos of it, and it was there, and it was really something that people had a visceral reaction to. But with
Correct.
this, we haven't really been able to see a lot of it. Yeah.
So I love that you said that, because I just feel like, at least with my small Instagram presence, what I've been trying to do is kind of create that reality for people. So I interviewed an ICU attending who's taking care of COVID patients. And I interviewed a pediatrician who's took care of some pediatric COVID patients. But it's still, in my heart, I was like, people still, I feel like, don't get it. So there was a guy, his name is Francis Wilson, who was being interviewed and continues to be interviewed on CNN, MSNBC, all of the news outlets. He's a 29-year-old guy who basically died from coronavirus and was resuscitated. 29 years old. And I'm interviewing him next week.
Wow.
So he literally died, and then he came back to life. And so I felt like, if someone is going to send the message to say, this is real,
right,
healthy, it happened to me, I was intubated, he heard read his last rites to him. And in this moment, he basically, they talk about like you having this choice, where he was allowed to say goodbye to his family. And so he could hear his family on the phone saying like, push through this, you can do this, Francis. And that's when he descended, or, back to his body.
Wow.
That's like right out of a movie.
I mean, when I was hearing him speak,
yeah,
I just thought, and he's like, I would love to share my story. I do think that, like, we're at a point now where people are not like backing off a little bit. But I think people are starting to feel like now is safe. But for our area, for example, no, it's now our peak. And a lot of people are behind New York.
Well, I was out in Central Park, and the first nice day, it's been cold here, which has been very helpful. Mother Nature is sort of helping us by making us stay inside because it's been so cold, unseasonably cold. But on the first nice day in Central Park, and people were wearing masks, and I met up with some friends, but we social distance. We sat, there was no hugging, there was no nothing. But on my walk home, I saw, multiple couples like sharing wine and sitting very close. And I thought, ay, what's going to happen when it hits 70? This is not good.
Yeah.
No.
It's this false sense of comfort, which I think people yearn for in every right. They've been doing quarantining for 1 to 2 months at this point, and we're social creatures. So we yearn for that. We need that. And so I think the concern is that people will let their guard down a little bit. And that's the second wave, which inevitably, will happen. There will be a second wave of it. That's just the progression of this. However, I keep saying the second wave peak won't be as high as the first wave. And as long as our healthcare systems aren't overpopulated, then it should be fine.
What can we do, those of us quarantined? How are some ways that we can give back and we can support besides quarantining? Mm-hmm. You're doing a lot. You've donated a lot. I see you. What are the ways that, us at home can help?
So I think the biggest thing, like you said, is not to like reiterate that, but just doing your own homework and doing everything. The CDC guidelines change every day, but at this point it's, you wear a mask when you're outside, you social distance, and you self-quarantine if you feel sick. I always tell patients, I had a very low grade fever, 2 months ago, let's just say, and I didn't run to get a test because you don't want to take that from someone who needs it even still. So if you feel like you're sick, stay at home, self-quarantine. The majority of the time you're going to be fine. Don't run out for a test. And then in terms of how to help, if anyone has any type of equipment, protective equipment, so gloves, masks, hats, even if they're homemade, your local hospitals will need them and will want them. So what I've been doing is our office, we gave the majority of our protective equipment away. And then we're reusing our N95 masks when we see patients and then just re-sterilizing it. So if you have any equipment, contact your local hospital. If you don't feel comfortable, you can always contact me and I can help you find someone. Most of my friends have tried to, either donate food or send food to hospitals. It's very much appreciated, but hospitals can't accept homemade food.
Right.
But they do have, every hospital has a donation site where you can give, some, whatever you can donate monetarily, and they'll buy their staff food. And so those are basically the two things that I say. If you want to donate to hospitals, feel free. A lot of these nurses, a lot of these doctors even are getting furloughed. So if you have the means to do it, then obviously that would be great. But, giving even a little bit will make a big difference in their lives. A lot of, people that I know are no longer working because the hospitals don't need them.
Right.
And these are people who've been working their entire lives and have trained for a very long time to do what they do. So I would just say donate whatever equipment that you have, even if it's homemade, and then, food, everyone loves food. So
yeah.
those are the
Awesome.
best ways.
Thank you.
Thank you
Of
so
course.
much for what you've been doing.
My pleasure.
Before we wrap this up, because you are part of the medical community, and look, nobody has a crystal ball, but do you have is there any rumors or when we think that things might start to open up, or are you hearing anything that maybe we're not hearing?
So, it's very state by state as well, but for Virginia, for example, our governor just announced that starting May 1st, we can proceed with elective cases. So that's great news, because that tells you that things are moving in a direction where people are still not, obviously going out and socializing, but we're moving from only emergency cases to now elective cases. I've kept saying we're looking probably at June to resume mostly normal, June, July, but it won't be until fall where everything essentially goes back to normal. And the magic thing isn't so much the vaccine, because the vaccine is going to take some time, but it's going to be the ability to test.
Right.
Because that will give us all the information. So testing early and getting results early, we're getting there. Unfortunately, what's happening is that people are confusing these antibody tests with actual tests. So the antibody tests are not great measures. They've been shown to be about 50 to 60% faulty.
Yeah.
Give someone with potentially a positive, COVID diagnosis a negative one. And that can happen half of the time. So they're coming up and they have pretty, aggressive tests that are able to give results in about 45 minutes to a few hours. So that's going to be the difference. It's not going to be the vaccine, is going to be readily available tests. So someone who wants to do something, for example, is able to get tested, positive, quarantine for 2 weeks, negative, go about your day. And I think that needs to be it. Now, the other thing is, well, okay, go about your day, then you have potential, you're going to be exposed. So how often should people get tested? And so it's the combination of readily available and the frequency as to which we test. But we're getting there. I think it's going to take another solid month where we probably are at half capacity, and then another month after that or so to get to full.
Wow.
Thank you so much for everything that you've been doing. And, I want to take this opportunity to thank everybody at home who's listening, because you know what? It's working because we're all in this together. I know we get kind of sick of hearing that, but keep on keeping on. Dr. Naz, thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome.
If people want to come in, and trust me, I bet there's going to be a huge rush of people the second elective opens up for, the Botox, all the stuff. Ryan's already made his appointment. How can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. It's at Dr. Maryam Naz. I respond to all my DMs, believe it or not, and then I can always kind of either help you schedule through there by putting you in contact with the office, or just kind of let you know what we're doing in terms of our office.
And then what about TikTok?
Oh, it's the same name at
Great.
Maryam Naz. Gotta keep it. You know, I had a different name and I was like, what am I doing?
Be your brand girl, of course.
Yes.
And if you guys want to find us, you can always find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Art Beauty Podcast.
Like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you're thinking. If you liked our topics, if you want a different topic, let us know. We're here for you. And as always, we will see you next Tuesday.